Alright, in this video we'll be talking about saving. So the class that you're going to need to add is pretty much exactly what I've put in here, but you could put it almost anywhere. In fact, I don't even think you need a separate like class specifically for it. You can define this in other code. The way I've read it through the documentation is that the Bannerlord code will go and search for your savable type definers that are inheriting. So the class like this, and will then add it into its own and then save your data. So while I've done it this way, it's not the only way it can be done. So what we can do is I created a new class, well, basically a new file over here and added in that class. We've inherited savable type definer into it, and then we've declared our savable type definer with this base here, but this has to be a unique number and it has to be a unique int. Can't be the same as any other mod or it will conflict, and then your mod and that mod will not save. What I imagine happens is that the one loaded last in the order gets to save and the other one doesn't. So it's kind of key that you don't use a number that anybody else has used, but you are limited by the constraints of the int32 because that's what it's going to require. Actually, it doesn't say there that it's an int32, but it's going to be an int. So the number that we put in here, if I just go base, it says int save base ID. So I'm going to tell me what it is. But yeah, there is only a limited number of numbers that you can have in there. So if you're creating this and you're like copying this code, please, I, the Great Dankner, have claimed 5634132 as my number. So don't you dare go anywhere near it. No, I mean, but just don't create it anywhere like that. Change one of these numbers somewhere, 5644132, because we all know that, as a pretty simplistic person, my next mod is going to be 3, and then the one after that's going to be 4, and the one after that's going to be 5. So, that's that's where we're going with this. After that comes the defined class types. We actually need to define a way for the game to save our data, and how we do that is we add this class definition. Basically, we've grabbed our quest that we've got over here, and we've told it we're going to save it, and that's the ID sort of again to put it in there. I think you can have this as like 1. This is the only part that needs to be unique. Again, this is just based off of my reading. I've made them the same since multiple other mods that I've seen have used the same numbers between the two of them. So far, in my own testing and my own work and my own experience, I have not managed to create multiples of this. I have seen it done though, so I know that somebody out there somewhere made it work. But for example, if I do this and I say, instead of it being played live request, I say, oh, well, we use current story, right? And then I add in 5. Well, what I can do is add in 2, right? So just to cover off on what I just said, as long as they're unique, it'll know what to do. And that'll go from there. Now, it doesn't know how to use current story because I haven't referenced it. I'm not going to change it because I'm not going to leave this here. I'm just showing you. I've seen this work in other code. I haven't made it work, so I've managed to make the first one that I define save, but not the second one. Don't know if that's because the second one that I tried to save was an extremely complex class, or whether there's something else you need to do here or whatever. But in the code that I looked at, they had this section here, and I don't think they had anything in it, and then they had it down here. Again, the way people write their code isn't necessarily the way I think about code, and so there could well have been other bits and pieces that were spread throughout their code that made their saving work that I missed when I was looking through it. But for now, I can show you how to save a class so that it does save, which we will obviously pick as our quest class once that's done. Now, this is in the early stages, so it's not the ending yet, but this is how you will set up your save type. Now, this doesn't get called from anywhere. This doesn't get referred to anywhere. It's the thing that refers to it, and basically the game just finds it. Don't ask me about that black magic. I don't know. The that's about it. There's nothing really more to talk about from there for now. Perhaps there may be more to return to for this topic in the future, but for now, that is how to save your data. Pick the class that you want, pick unique numbers for this, copy the rest of the code, and you will be able to add the savable fields into your classes. So obviously we need to have a look and see how that works. Over here, we've declared these public variables, and we've put this savable field in front of it. I don't know yet. Again, I'm still working my way through a lot of this. There is a savable property as well, and you can have savable properties being declared. But again, I was never able to get a savable property to save. I've only been able to get the savable fields to save. So there's clearly something I'm missing. My code knowledge is not great enough to understand this add class definition business. Possibly if it was, then I'd be able to write better saving and be able to explain this better. But this is how I'm doing it for now, and it's how it's working in my other mod, the Noble Killer one. But it did create a fair problem when I couldn't make it save the main Noble Killer class. I was only able to save the quest class, which resulted in some fairly complicated resaving between two classes, where I define static variables that I fill from the quest, and then I save it in the quest, and then I publish it back out as the game loads. And the saving grace there is that the game does a tick when it loads, so that might be helpful to somebody to know. There is a game time tick before the player gets into the game, so if you need things to happen on tick, you can have that happen as the game loads. Like you can reference a tick as the game loads. That might not make a lot of sense unless we have a look at the Noble Killer the Noble Killer quest, which I'll do for a second just to sort of show that tick thing that I'm talking about. Where is the actual call to the tick? Bear with me. I've just got the code here for a second. I'm just going to copy it in. Yeah, there we go. Register events. All right, so I'll copy the whole thing and just delete out the bits that I don't need. So we'll go to our quest class because that's where it makes the most sense to have it in here. And then this is not for this one, this is for example purposes only. Under our register events, we register a tick event, and then we can have the tick event. We'll declare that one in there and put it down here. This occurs, so this register events obviously runs as the game loads, and it adds this tick in, and actually there is a tick after this point. So that was good to know, might be helpful to somebody who's maybe got the same issues I had. Now, obviously this stuff that's happening inside of it doesn't matter, but yeah, if you do want to pick up on a tick, you can have that happen. So obviously it's a mod that has a quest relating to whether or not people are felled in combat, and if they are, then this will finish the quest off. So but that's what a tick can do. You can have all sorts of stuff in here. You can be checking things, you can be updating things, but remember, this is literally every game tick, and you don't want to have stuff in here that's super complicated. So please keep that in mind. Don't use this as your launcher for some massive code execution, because with that happening every time, you are going to slow down player movement. So this was basically just check, is target no longer with us, complete the assassin quest, otherwise it was going to check these other things. So really quick bool checks, like bam, done, sorted. If they're alive, get out of here. So yeah, that shouldn't be slowing down anything really, but it does the job. Talked enough about that. That wasn't the main purpose of this. This was just more to show how you can get around some of that saving issue. That's how your ticks work, and that's how your saves work. You can add in these savable fields, refer to them, and then when the player hits the save or saves the game in any other way, quick saves, auto saves, the rest of it, the game picks up on these savable fields, and whatever's in there at the time gets saved so that when they load, it puts it back into these, and then everything can keep running, which you can imagine with a quest is extremely important. Otherwise, how do you adjust the reward, or, change the target, or determine if the quest is even running, right? Like, yeah, if it's not being saved, you've got a problem. All right, that's what I wanted to cover off on there. Thank you for watching.